Hello everyone, this is Dr. Patil. This chapter is about microorganisms and health, human health particularly, and this is for Year 8 Foundation batch. So do listen to it till the end, and if you like it, please do share with other friends and colleagues of yours. So we are going to look into different types of microorganisms in brief, about the health and illness and immunity, how the immunity system works and how the health gets affected, the types of diseases, and little bit details about different types and classification of the diseases. So let's move on. Now you must have heard this term microbe or microorganisms. Micro is a measure, and this cannot be seen with the naked eyes. So you have to observe these organisms under microscope, and they are called as microorganisms or microbes. And there are, this is a diverse terminology. It includes number of bacteria, protozoa, fungi, and algae. And each of this type has got thousands and thousands of subtypes. So you will get millions of bacteria which are there all over in the water, in the river water, sea water. They are there even where the temperatures are sub-zero. They are there in the plants, in the human body, in animal bodies, and they exist in nature almost everywhere. So they are universal in existence. Now this can be unicellular or multicellular. So bacteria, protozoa, usually they are unicellular organisms made up of only one cell. Whereas fungi, algae, they are multicellular organisms. Viruses are usually considered as inactive particles. Some people call them as dead particles. But inactive is a proper terminology because once they enter the host cells, such as human cell or animal cell, inside the cell they start reproducing. So they become active, and they take the control of the cell and they start producing themselves. So cell, instead of performing its own function, it starts reproducing the viruses. So that's how the viruses are different from other microorganisms. Now microbiology is the science which studies these microorganisms. It's a very simple thing, and depending on what effect these microorganisms have on our health, they can be useful microbes or harmful microbes. And we're going to go into more details of these useful and harmful microbes. But let me show you this nice chart here, which classifies the microorganisms into useful organisms, the one on your right on the screen. So useful organisms can be used by us for either food industry or in medicines or in general industry, or they can be useful in nature to maintain the ecosystem. So they help in decomposing the waste products, the plant and animal wastes, and that's how they help to recycle the material, the nutrients, and they help in maintaining the soil fertility and maintaining the nature and environment as well. Now on your left of the screen, see, they can be harmful microorganisms and they can produce diseases. They can produce diseases in human, in plants, in animals. They can also spoil the food or spoil clothes, leather items, and that's how they can be harmful. The diseases, we're going to look into more details of diseases soon. So that's a very important slide, if you can remember. Now let's go through some useful microorganisms. So microorganisms are very useful. You cannot imagine a life of human being or even the ecosystem without existence of microorganisms. and their uses are in food industry or at household food making, in the food processing. So you can see the milk industry is dependent on microorganisms. Production of curd and various milk products from milk is dependent on microorganisms. Bakery industry, making a coffee, alcohol, vinegar, that all needs microorganisms. So lactobacillus is used for converting milk to curd. In bakery industry, there is a heavy reliance on yeast in making bread, cake, pastries. Also, yeast is used in alcohol, wine, vinegar industry. Vinegar industry also uses yeast and bacteria. Alcohol industry uses fermentation process, and coffee industry also uses microorganisms. You don't need to remember these names of microorganisms at this stage, but in your higher classes you will have to learn this. So this is a food industry. Second industry where microorganisms are useful is a medicine industry, and here it's used for production of antibiotics and also in vaccine industry, vaccine research and manufacturing of vaccines, various vaccines. Microorganisms are used in making a TB vaccine, rabies vaccine, also in COVID vaccine. The next use of microorganisms is in agriculture. This is a little bit about the antibiotics. Alexander Fleming was the scientist who first produced antibiotic in 1929, and he produced it from a mold Penicillium notatum. And industrial production of penicillin is done by using Penicillium chrysogenum, that is a bacterium. So bacteria and these microorganisms are used for antibiotics. Similarly, streptomycin antibiotic, which is very useful in TB, pneumonia, various infections, then that's produced from Streptomyces bacteria. Similarly, sulfonamide, that's useful in skin infections, lung infection, urinary infections, that's also produced from microorganisms. So let's move on to agricultural use of microorganisms. So in agriculture, in nature, the microorganisms are useful in the process of decomposition. So the plant and human remains, they are decomposed by this bacteria, and then decomposition releases the nutrients present in this material, and those nutrients go back to nature. They go back in the soil, and that's how soil fertility is maintained. Now in the diagram you can see this waste material, that's a compost on your left side, and that composting process, decomposition process, needs microorganisms. On the right side of your screen you have the example of microbes that increase soil fertility by fixing the nitrogen from atmosphere, and that is rhizobium. So these rhizobium, these are the bacteria. They live in small nodules present at the roots of leguminous plants, and they increase the nitrogen content in the soil because they fix the nitrogen from atmosphere and they increase nitrogen availability for the plant. And nitrogen is very important for protein making, so the plant grows, and that's how it's important for fertility of the soil. Now that was about agricultural use. The next use is industrial use of microorganisms. And as I said earlier, it's used in food, medicine, and agricultural industry, as well as in a general industry. So these are the examples of various industries where microorganisms are used. You don't have to remember them all, but just keep in mind that the food and beverage industry, then there is a wastewater treatment plants, bioremediation, biocatalysis, biofuel production, bio-based chemical production, pharmaceutical production, biopolymers, bio-leaching, bio-bleaching, food additives, and genetic engineering. So lots of industries, they need microorganisms. Now let's move on to harmful microbes. We've seen the uses of microbes. Now we'll see what are their harms. Now microorganisms that are harmful to us are called as pathogens. And there are various pathogens which can harm human or other animals and plants. And as I said, they're called pathogens because they produce pathological changes in our body. Pathology is disturbance from normal structure and function of our body. Most common of these are viruses, bacteria, fungi, algae, as I said, but viral infections are the most common infections, and common cold is the example of that. COVID is also example of viral infection, which has recently come in last 2 to 3 years. Microorganisms also cause food spoilage and also cause damage to our cloth and leather. So there are quite a big list of diseases that is caused by microorganisms. I won't go through the whole list, but just remember the common diseases. The protozoa, they cause malaria. Bacteria can cause TB, cholera. Fungi can cause ringworm, tinea. Viruses can cause AIDS, common cold, COVID-19, hepatitis B, and dengue fever. So these are different diseases caused by different pathogens. So just remember the common diseases at this stage. And microorganisms are there everywhere. Yeah, so some of them are harmful, but many of them are good for us as well. So we can make use of them, and they are important for our own survival, maintenance of the ecosystem, and human has used them in various industries as well. We have seen that. So that was about microbes. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is human health and immunity. Now human health is a very broad concept. So we have to look at different aspects of human health, and that includes medical care we get in our society, in our country, the genetical background of the individual, the nutrition we take to maintain our body, our lifestyle, and the environment we live in. These all are very important factors. So the medical care, why it is important? Because if some country or society has a good medical care, good availability of the medicines, doctors, nurses, and healthcare facilities, then obviously that population will have access to good healthcare when they need. And if they get ill, if they need surgery, if they develop cancers or other diseases, they can get treated easily, and this population can live more healthy life. They can live longer. So medical care is very important. Now genetics is important because certain genetic diseases, they are common in certain populations, and some genetic diseases do not occur in other populations. So having the knowledge of genetic diseases is important so that we can actually do some treatment about it, or we can tell the parents with certain genetic defects not to have babies, because their babies will likely to have genetic problems as well. And if we have a knowledge of genetic diseases, that helps in treating these people, treating the children and people who have got genetic problems. So nutrition is important because it provides all the raw material for the human body structure and functioning of the body. The lifestyle will also help to either maintain or to disturb your health. If you have a good lifestyle, then the health will remain good. If somebody has a bad lifestyle, then their health will be affected badly. and our environment where we live in, the air, the quality of the water we drink, whether we have adequate housing, whether the society is aware of environmental pollution and waste material disposal, and all these things will matter to our health. So let's have a look at few important concepts about immunity. So what is immunity? Immunity is ability of human body or animal body to deal with the attack from the foreign organisms. So it is the ability to protect from infections, that is immunity. Now there are two types of immunities. One is an innate immunity and second is adapted immunity. So we'll have a look at this in brief now. Innate immunity is the one we actually get at birth. It is acquired through birth, so it has got a genetic component. When the baby is born from the womb of mother, as soon as it comes out, it has got the innate immunity, and it is in the form of either first line defense or second line defense. The first line defenses of innate immunity are in the form of skin, the mucous membrane which lines our alimentary tract or respiratory tract. There are secretions, the chemicals secreted in our tear, in our gastric juice. They have certain enzymes that help to kill the microorganisms. So these are the first line defenses. Now, once the microorganism crosses this first line defenses, such as if the virus or bacteria enters into the blood, enters into the muscle, then the second line defense comes into play, and that is in the form of the various peptides and proteins that are available in human body. So that is about innate immunity. The second type of immunity is acquired immunity, and this is acquired when the child is born, and it keeps developing throughout the life, and it is dependent on production of antibodies in response to the foreign organisms, microorganisms that enter the human body, as well as the cells that respond and attack these microorganisms. So let us have a look at these components of immune system now, mainly the cells. Just for introduction, you do not need great details of this at this stage, but in your next classes you will go into more details of these cells. So immune system is made up of cells, tissues and organs. And what is immune response? So it is a coordinated response of these cells and organs to tackle the disease causing microorganism and to protect you your own self. That is immune response. Now components of the immune system, as I said earlier, they are cells. So they are white blood cells, and you can see on the left of the screen here, the white blood cells are of various types. The main types you should be aware of are lymphocyte, neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil, and monocytes. So these are the white cells that help to tackle the microorganisms, pathogens when they enter our body into our blood. The second component of the immune system is lymphoid organs. So what are the lymphoid organs we should be aware of? So these are various organs in the body, and they are divided into two types: the primary lymphoid organs and secondary lymphoid organs. And they are primary are thymus. The thymus is located behind our chest bone, inside the chest. And second primary lymphoid organ is bone marrow. So bone marrow is present inside the bone marrow cavity of all bones in the body. So these are two primary lymphoid organs. Secondary lymphoid organs are spleen that is there in the stomach, tonsils at the back of the throat, lymph nodes. You have lymph nodes all over the body, and sometimes you can feel them at the neck here, and lymphatic vessels that carry lymph from all over the body towards these lymphatic organs, and ultimately the lymph goes into the blood and it circulates in the body in the form of blood. So that is about lymphoid organs, primary, secondary. So it's the whole system which helps in protecting us from microorganisms. Now we have to also look into mechanism, how the immune system works. So in simple terms, the immune system has its own mechanism to identify the microorganism and our own cell in a different way. So how does that identify? Why does immune system not kill our own cell? And how does it identify that virus has entered or bacteria has entered and that needs to be killed, whereas our own cell doesn't get killed? So there is this mechanism you can see in the diagram. There is a self marker present on our own cell. It is a protein. So our immune system learns to identify this protein, and once it identifies this protein, it does not attack the cell. But if you do not have this self marker, and if you have a foreign protein called as antigen on the surface of that cell, such as antigen present on virus, bacteria, fungi, then all these cells are identified as non-self or foreign cells, and then immune system attacks this. It produces antibodies, and our white blood cells, they act on these foreign antigens as well. So that is how immune system identifies self cells and non-self cells. So that was about immunity. Now let's go through few human disease concepts. So what is disease? Now this is opposite to the health, opposite to being health. What is health? Health is a state of physical, mental, and social well-being. Okay, so physical, social, mental well-being is health. Disease is dis-ease. So somebody is not at ease is diseased. Somebody who is not comfortable is ease. They do not have proper health. They have a disease. So that is about disease. Now, disease causes effects on our body structure and function. So that leads to production of certain symptoms and signs. What is symptom? Because of the disease, the patient feels few things like they have a headache, they feel hot, their body hurts, so it's a body ache, they feel nausea, they feel like vomiting, they can faint, they have a dizziness. So these all are symptoms. What is felt by patient is symptom. It's a complaint patient tells the doctor. Now, what is sign? What doctor finds out after examination in a patient is sign. So patient tells symptoms, doctor finds out signs. Now, diseases can be classified as acute and chronic. What is acute? Acute is it starts suddenly, develops suddenly, and it also goes away suddenly. So that is acute, like a cold. We get common cold or some simple viral diarrheas. Now chronic, what is chronic? So they start gradually, develop slowly, they are maintained over a long period of time, and then they either slowly go away or they never go away, like diabetes, like high blood pressure, like chronic low back pain. So these are acute and chronic diseases. Now next way of classifying diseases is infectious diseases and non-infectious diseases. So what is infectious diseases? The diseases that are caused by pathogens such as bacteria, viruses, fungal disease, protozoal disease, or helminthic disease. These are infectious diseases. Now they can be unicellular organisms like bacteria, virus, fungi, or they can be multicellular organisms like helminthic organisms, roundworm, and other helminths. They are also known as helminthic diseases. So diseases can spread from one person to other person, and they are called as communicable diseases. Diseases that spread through air, food, physical contact with patient, sexual contact, or through droplets such as through sneezing or coughing, they all are infectious diseases. So that is about infectious diseases caused by pathogens. They spread from one person to other person. Now non-infectious diseases. So these can be genetic or related to the lifestyle. Now genetic diseases, they are because of the defect in the gene, that is DNA of the person, and that leads to some diseases like sickle cell anemia, which is common in certain communities in India and in Southeast Asia, in Arabian countries, in African countries. Now certain cancers can be genetic, and those families will have more chances of getting cancers. And cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease. It is a condition where lung gets affected and patients get serious diseases. Second group of non-infectious disease is lifestyle related. So a person does not have good habits, healthy habits, they can develop lifestyle related diseases such as obesity, high blood pressure, and addictions, and problems related to bad diet, that is malnutrition, or high weight, that is obesity. So these are all lifestyle related diseases, and there are many more. You will learn them in your higher classes. Yeah. So you can see in this diagram, lifestyle related diseases are heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, chronic obstructive lung disease or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and some type of cancers are also related to lifestyle diseases. So coming to the last part of this chapter now, how do we maintain good health? So for good health, you need to have a good fuel, that is food. So like for good maintenance of a car or a vehicle, you need to give it a good fuel. If the fuel is adulterated, mixed with other low quality oils, then it will not work. The car will break down. Similar thing is true for our health. We need a good food, that is balanced diet. What is balanced diet? It includes all the components of nutrition that are required for our health, and it also has an adequate amount of calories. So there are some factors that need to be there in balanced diet. There are carbohydrates, proteins, fat, fibers, vitamins, minerals, and adequate amount of water. So we need to have a balance of these through different foods. So it could be vegetarian and non-vegetarian. Vegetarian, vegetables and fresh fruits are good for health because they give you a lot of nutrients and fibers. And some non-vegetarian foods are also good for protein, iron, and other multivitamin sources, as a multivitamin sources. Apart from diet, you need to have a regular exercise in your life routine. Then addictions are harmful. Whatever amount of tobacco someone smokes or chews is harmful. Alcohol in excess is harmful. Next important thing for maintaining good health is a hygiene at a personal level. Regular baths, cutting your nail, maintaining your hair hygiene, nice and clean clothes every day, and looking after your health, regular checks and taking medications. Community hygiene, maintaining our surroundings clean, keeping our water resources clean, having good pure air, clean air, and proper disposal of the sewage and human excreta is important for community hygiene. And disease prevention is also important. That is, there are two areas where disease prevention matters: the communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. The communicable diseases can be transmitted through air, droplets, mosquitoes, and by close contact. So we need to avoid these contacts when there is a disease in the society or in your vicinity. Non-communicable diseases, obviously, we have looked at the importance of diet, exercise, not having addictions. These are important aspects to prevent non-communicable diseases. So that's all from my side. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you want to watch more such videos, then do subscribe and share this video with your friends and colleagues. I'll see you in next video. Take care. Bye bye.